First order of business tonight will be the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you'll all please rise for the invocation. Tonight's invocation will be given by Reverend Chris Peters, Associate Pastor of Trinity Presbyterian Church, and please remain standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Friends, let us pray. Living God, we marvel at the world around us with gratitude for our place in it and for your care for our very lives. With mercy, guide us as we pray for the work of Fairhope's elected leaders tonight. Where they face difficult decisions, make the path clear for resolution. And where their work affects others, from the esteemed to the least of these, make their decisions mindful, caring, and just. We pray all this with gratitude for our very lives and with hope in this season of anticipation and peace. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Peters. Okay, first order of business tonight is to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting, the work session, and the agenda meetings held on December 10th. Do you have any changes, additions, or deletions to those minutes, council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. So moved. Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, those minutes are approved. Thank you, council. Mayor Wilson, your report, please.
Thank you, Council President. We took a field trip to Ocean Springs Tuesday. Councilman Conyers, Brown, and Boone, our planning director, Wayne Dias, planner, Buford King, Economic and Community Development Director, Sherry Lee Botop, and took this opportunity to meet with Christian Prius, who has an office here in Fairhope, too. And he walked us around the downtown area, showed us a lot of the landscape design and a lot of design elements from wayfinding, lighting designs, parking, and the coastal shoreline, the Coastal Living Shoreline Project. We also visited the marina. Like some of the cities we visited along 30A earlier this year, the intention of these trips is to learn from our neighbors what works and doesn't work. Being able to understand how they may have done something differently had they, if they're able to do something over again, and that will help us in our future planning. One of the highlights was our visit to the Mary C. O'Keefe Cultural Center of Arts and Education. This center used to be a landmark in 1927 for the 1927 public school building, which now serves as a place for performing culinary and visual arts. As you know, the city is in the process of reacquiring the K1 property in downtown Fairhope from the Baldwin County Board of Education. The discussion to include a performing arts center has been discussed for this site. A performing arts center has been a very popular topic since the mid-90s, and we want to make sure that we make this a priority, and it is my priority and council's priority to make this a reality. While we all are hopeful that the $6.2 million federal grant money from the EDA will come through, this amount, the $2.5 million to purchase the property, is in the 2019 budget. So we just want to, we will all make certain that this is what happens. After this takes place, the city will be hosting a charrette, so citizens have an opportunity to share their ideas about what they'd like to see developed in the near future. I want to take this moment and recognize our city council and thank them for working with me over the last few months. I am appreciative that we have a budget in place as we enter the Christmas season. The budget process wasn't easy, and we had our disagreements. However, we were able to work through those differences in a professional and respectful manner. We are a better city when we work together and work through our differences. I am very pleased with how we've conducted the city business recently, and I know our department heads are as well. As we enter the new year, I hope we can continue to conduct our city's important business in a respectful, thoughtful, and professional manner. We will disagree on issues in the future. However, I'm confident if we continue to resolve our differences in the manner in which we've done in the last few months, we will do great things for our city. With your involvement and support, 2019 will be a great year for the city of Fairhope.
And as public participation regarding agenda items, if you'd like to speak to items 6 through 23, if you'll please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. And remember, this is just for agenda items. We do have another place at the end of tonight's meeting to bring other matters before the city council. Floor is open.
I'll be first.
I bet you won't be last tonight.
I'm Jim Peck, 413 Azalea in Fairhope. Been in the house since September. I was fortunate enough to talk to Mr. Boone and Mr. Brown. I left messages with the other three. I'm not in favor of the entertainment district, so I'll go get to the bottom line first. I went through the ordinance and found some questions I had. In section 2 is how do you control going in and out of the entertainment district? And I think, Mr. Robinson, at the last meeting, you had a lot of questions, that ambiguities, I want to call it. And so I mean, it's almost like you got a fence, and how you going to, it's an invisible fence. So how are you going to watch who comes in and who goes out with containers? I mean, I could walk in there from home with a container and into the district, and I would be outside the entertainment district. The other part is the cups. Is the city prepared to have somebody on staff to be selling those cups? Section 3 talks about you can either get them from the city or from a designated vendor. So that's, appropriation of funds, budget, you know all about that. How much taxes is it going to be on the police department to monitor all this stuff? And are we prepared to financially pay those folks to keep a watchful eye? Excuse me, made my notes here. Anyway, that was, questions on the resolution to how do you, and the other thing was, I noticed in the perimeter, it includes the Methodist Church, which I wouldn't think that would be appropriate approach to take. And it almost sounds like we're trying to push this through fast without a lot of people knowing about it. And so it doesn't, I'm just not in favor of the changing, making an entertainment district. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Peck.
I'm Lonnie Bird. I live at 8940 Leebrook Street. And first, I want to just congratulate you guys and gal. I can think of no higher honor, very few higher honors than to be elected by your friends and neighbors. I mean, that's pretty good, guys. And it's an honor that you've been given. And I remember when you were elected, and you were elected to keep the status quo and to get us back to being a family-oriented city. That was repeated over and over and over again. And we elected you. But not only did we elect you, when they came with a new form of government, very hastily, by the way, and we knew very little about it, but we did know about you guys. We got out, stood in a line much longer than we should have had to, and voted to keep the status quo. Now, I've heard some of you say, including even this morning, it was said that all we're trying to do is help the bar owners. Nothing more, nothing less. Friend, if that's your attitude, you better go back and read the doctrine that you're talking about. If you vote this thing through, you're going to change Fairhope from a family-oriented city to one that we have a free-flowing alcohol on the streets of Fairhope every time we can come up with what we call a special event. Each of the bar owners that bought and went down and bought a license, they were told at the time they bought the license, there is a law in Alabama against open containers outside their premises. So it wasn't a surprise to them. They knew what it was. So what we're doing, we are coming to the place we're trying to change the law to accommodate a few bar owners at the cost of thousands of citizens of Fairhope. You folks are better people than that. You know it's not right. You know what the possibilities are of it not going the way you think it should go. And so therefore, I plead with you that trust that we placed in you to elect you and to say, we want you leading our city. Cream rises to the top. You rise to the top and say, Fairhope doesn't want to be like other cities around. We want to be Fairhope, because every one of those cities, they have residents that wish they were residents of Fairhope. Please, please, vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
David Shepard, 21210, County Road 13. I want to talk to you about the ordinance. The ordinance defines the Fairhope Entertainment District not at all. Most people behind me, and I would imagine 99% of this town doesn't know what the entertainment district is. We thought it was a few streets in downtown. It was a few blocks. I hope you know, but what a lot of people don't know is the entertainment district, if this ordinance passes, is 71 acres of Fairhope. 71 acres. It includes a school. It includes a church. It includes a nursing home. It includes a child's playground. It includes residential areas. That's what the entertainment district is. Section 2 of the ordinance. You're putting the merchants in a bad position. Someone drinking alcoholic beverages can go in a non-licensed premises with the permission of that establishment. So now the merchants, who those are potential customers, they're going to police those people walking in or tell them you can't come in here with that. Section 3 says no licensee shall allow alcoholic beverages removed in bottles or glass containers. Now, last time I was here, a lady right over there, an owner, told y'all, we cannot police this thing. We can't keep our customers from walking out with open containers. Well, pray tell me, if they can't keep them from walking out with open containers, how are they going to keep them from walking out with bottles? It won't work. You're putting them in a bad position if you pass this ordinance. I think I heard last time that this would stop people from bringing alcohol into the district. Read the ordinance, section 4. Except for special events, no alcoholic beverages purchased outside the district shall be allowed in open containers in the district. except for special events. What special event? That Section 4 tells us that people will be allowed on certain occasions, undefined, to bring alcohol in. You going to advertise that? Hey, Mobile, y'all come on, bring whatever alcohol you want. You can roam around drinking 71 acres of Fairhope. How family friendly that is. Now, Section 5. I was shocked when I saw Section 5. All enforcement will be the responsibility of the city of Fairhope. Hey, here we are, come sue us. Property damage, wrecks, injuries, death. The city of Fairhope is saying, we are responsible for the enforcement of this. Look to us if there's a problem. And believe me, they will look to the city. That's a horrible liability section. Section 6, and Councilman Robinson spoke to this, it's not fair to the police department. So it begins 1 hour before and 1 hour after the event. When is that? When does it start? When does it end? You're going to ask your police to go out there and enforce something, but you're not going to tell them what time they start nor stop. And if you want to be friendly to the drinkers, you're not telling them either what time they can start or stop. And I want to go one step further in this Section 6 because it says the entertainment district's in effect during these times, and then we've got this general phrase at the end, and upon special request. Special request by whom? One person? And to whom is that request made? And what is the criteria for granting that request? What is the criteria for denying that request? Totally silent in this ordinance. This is a bad ordinance for a bad idea. And if you gentlemen want to preserve the family-friendly attitude and environment we have, if you want to keep what so many of your predecessors have worked so hard for so long, you will vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Good evening. My name is Lawson Swearingen. I live at 152 Orange Avenue in Fairhope. I too want to join with Lonnie in expressing commendations and appreciations to you for your willingness to serve on the council and for what you've demonstrated, I feel, in the past insofar as you're having the best interest of Fairhope at heart. I'm not going to be redundant and repeat what's been said. I certainly agree with each one who has spoken in opposition to this district. I think the bottom line to me is what is in the best interest of preserving Fairhope as we know it, and what has been, I think, a primary motivation in many people like myself in moving to Fairhope for what it has to offer. You know, the arguments that has been presented in reference to doing something that would aid our small businesses, I think we have to look at what aids and what benefits our city as a whole. If you take action that presumably benefits a small business, which I'm not convinced that that's the case, but is detrimental to the city as a whole, then how does that benefit small business? If our city is set back, if we have the environment of, I think Dr. Henry said last time, of a Floribama, if we really want an entertainment district, and David Shepherd makes an excellent point about the boundaries of that district. But regardless of the boundaries, it's going to be detrimental to our city. And you can't make the boundaries large enough to help the city wherever these small businesses are established. You'd be setting the precedent. The other argument about, well, we're just going to do it on special occasions and special events. If you establish this, then I've seen what happens insofar as laying the groundwork for broadening that in the future. And the third argument about, well, we can always, if it doesn't work out, we can go back and rescind it or revoke it. History shows whether it's a city council or a state legislature or a Congress, that doesn't happen. Once it's set and the damage has been done, and the likelihood of undoing that is practically nil. So weigh the risk and the reward, and I don't see the reward, but I see great risk. So I urge you to defeat this proposal.
Thank you, sir.
It's a good time to get this target off my back. Amy Pippin, 8552 Garden Circle. I want to first name some, we're always talking about the worst case scenario. I know the last time we spoke, it was like, we're really counting these chickens before they hatch. Well, let's say worst case scenario happens on my end, as in, I'm not a bar owner, I'm a bartender, so I'm even more passionate about it. Loss of employment of these small business owners, bars, restaurants, due to excessive fines. The Pippin family, my family, the Robinson family, the Kerr family, the Woodard family, the Richardson family, the Kinder family, the Rhodes family, the Yates family, the Gambino family, the Kilpatrick family, the Williams family. These are all families that we're talking about continuing to have in Fairhope. Why can't they get support too? You're trying to support all these families in Fairhope. These families are a part of Fairhope too, and they run this town. That's the person that opens those doors every day for you to come have your tacos, to come have your glass of wine, to come have your cocktail. We're family too. I would appreciate not being treated as this weird stigma of families that don't matter. Those people do matter. And yes, we took those jobs. We did. That was a choice. And we love our jobs. And we're very good at our jobs. And we're very responsible for our jobs. All we're asking is for you to help us with liability. And there was a man that made a great point. Yes, the laws are too strict in Alabama, but that is a state issue, not a city issue. We can't do anything about it. This is what we can do. And we want this to happen. And I promise you that we will be vigilant in enforcing every single rule that you want us to in this ordinance. I don't care what it is. We will do it. I mean, do we want to supply cups? We'll supply cups. I will come out of my own pocket to supply those cups. I will hang up signage just like I have in my restaurant, in my bar now. I have signage right now. No alcohol beyond this point. No beverages from inside. I will continue that, and I will enforce every single, if it's a 5 o'clock event and it starts at 4 o'clock, common sense. If it ends at 9 o'clock, the ordinance stops at 10, and we're vigilant, just like we are now, to stop people from doing that. I got news for you. Those Yetis aren't full of water. It's already out on the street. I don't care who you are. It's out on the street. Those styrofoam cups, they are not full of coffee. That's got Bailey's in it, babe. I promise you it does. So do those Yetis. All we want to do is to try to stop the fines from the small business. And we are families, and we do support families. And that's what it's about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pippin. Is there anyone else? Still on items 6 through 23. I can't believe nobody's speaking about the purchase of a bucket truck tonight. What's up with that?
Good evening, Stephanie Hollinghead. I'm here on behalf of the police department. And I know that there is a lot of debate that's going on about this entertainment district. So I want to represent the police department because there's a lot of question as to how this is going to affect enforcement. And certainly the proposal is going to have a positive impact on the local community. But I believe if it's our responsibility to become better prepared to manage these events before we implement this ordinance. Our current state is the police department. We are understaffed. We have a difficult time as it is covering the special events that we have right now. And we're diligently working, trying to add to our police department. I would like to approach this not from a personal point of view, but definitely from the police department, and that we look at this as, before we pass it, let's make sure that the community is educated on what their responsibility as the public is supposed to do. Because I'm not really sure of everything that's in the ordinance, not that to understand. I know that it's going to be my responsibility with my department to enforce these laws. And right now, we do not have the manpower to do this. I would would ask that we consider some type of long-term educational program. Clarify when and where the entertainment district is going to be in effect. Encourage responsible drinking and transportation decisions. If we, making it happen overnight, if we educate everyone on what their responsibility is, it will definitely make our job easier. I would just like to say that if the city is going to go forth on this, that I respectfully ask you to do it from a proactive manner. Let's educate them what they're getting into, what their responsibility is, and what they need to do before we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Wasn't the intention. Good evening, Rachel Wade, 205 Conti Court. As I apologize, I did not catch her name. The bartender, the lady, so eloquently spoke that she has difficulty because she's right in the Yeti cups and the styrofoam cups. People are not obeying the law. So my concern, as someone who was born and raised in Fairhope, who thought all throughout high school I was going to get out of here and had nowhere else that I wanted to come back and raise my children, but this beautiful city, how are we going to police that? We just enjoyed the Christmas parade, and it's such a beautiful, family-friendly event. It scares me what this will look like if it passes. I beg you, on the sake of our city that is admired. I see a different internet article. I see a different magazine article about the beauty of our city. That's what I want to keep. The safety of our city. She said another thing that struck me. She mentioned all these families, all these business owners, these bar owners, and she said they run this city. I'd like to correct her there. They don't. We do. The city, we have elected you. And while I wish nothing but the best for all of their families, certainly not at the expense of our city, of my children, and of the other children and generations to come, because this, I believe, is a slow fade. I believe it can't be policed. And I believe I won't be taking my children to parades anymore, not knowing what that will look like. So I beg of you to think about what that would look like on behalf of our city and our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ashton Bennett Sawyer. I live at 728 South Mobile Street, and I appreciate everything that's been said by all folks. I had a chance to play college ball, and our coach said, don't be ordinary, be distinctive, and he built that into us. Well, see, Fairhope already is not ordinary, and I just am concerned about the direction this may set, not in the first week or months, or maybe even half a year or so, but the direction it could set if we vote for this. Now, we're not a bunch of narrow-minded folks out here. We just, like we just mentioned, you have children through these special events. And we really got to be wise and not be ordinary. That's why the young lady that spoke for the ordinance rightly said, we have families too. Well, they came to Fairhope because of what Fairhope is. We're not ordinary. I shuddered when I heard the young lady on the news the other day that kind of downtown Fairhope was being interviewed briefly, and she said, "Oh, I think it's kind of okay. Sweet young lady. It's kind of like New Orleans." I think a lot of us took a deep breath, and I think a lot of us saw that. Don't you be ordinary, and don't you be afraid to vote your heart. I challenge you to that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Is there anyone else? Floor is still open. Okay, final call. Seeing no one, I'll close public participation for agenda items and remind you once again that you'll have another opportunity to address council on non-agenda items at the conclusion of tonight's meeting. We'll move on to council comments. Councilman Robinson?
I don't have any comment tonight.
You're sick? Councilman Conyers?
I've got a couple comments tonight. First, just wanted to bring up, I know there's a building being proposed, and it's still in the early stages for the intersection of Fairhope Avenue and Section Street. And this would be a boutique hotel. I don't think there's anything wrong with a boutique hotel in town, but the proposal is for a 4-story building right now. We've just recently revised or amended the height ordinance to go up to 40 feet. And that was done, still maintained at 3 stories as a cap, but that was done in an effort to allow some flexibility on roof design. Well, that hadn't been on the books probably 6 months, and now we've got people saying, well, 40 feet is the new height limit, so what's the difference whether you got 3 stories or 4 stories? Well, that wasn't the intent of raising that up to 40 feet. The intent was to provide some, something besides just a flat roof if people wanted to do that downtown, but it seems sort of like you give an inch, they take a mile, has slid into that. I'd like to bring up to the council possibly amending that height ordinance. I know I've talked with Wayne about it a couple times. He's tired of me bringing it up. But I don't think we should have anything above that 40-foot mark that isn't signed off on by the Board of Adjustments. And I'd be fine with something like, a steeple. I mean, that's certainly something you could make an exception for. But there's other items, the elevator shaft that's across the street from Greer's. That was one thing that has been brought up. But I'm wondering if we shouldn't drop it back to 35 feet and just make it clear that the intent is 3 stories. And that might just be my personal opinion, but I'm putting that out there to the council. So y'all tell me what you think. And if y'all are interested in that, we can.
Well, first thing I think of, Mr. Conyers, is if they're asking for a variance on the stories, they're going to ask for a variance on the height. So people asking for variances aren't going to change if you knock it back down to 35 feet. I think that the one thing that I want to say to the public is that when that Board of Adjustment and Appeals considers things, they need to consider whether or not there's a hardship, because there has to be a hardship that goes along with that. And so I hope that they're listening to me tonight and will consider whether or not that's really creating a hardship for someone.
Right, and then the one other thing I wanted to bring up, I was glad to see Judge Snedeker's back on the agenda for reappointment, and see that he brought 3 generations of Snedekers with him tonight. So glad to have y'all here. I know y'all proud of him. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And the entertainment district, I guess I'm the bad guy. This was brought up last year. I was out of town. It was voted 2-2, so it didn't pass. So it puts me in the bad position. If I would have been here, it would have passed. I would have been in support of it. The way I approach things is pragmatically. And that definition says dealing with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical considerations. matter of fact, sensible, down to earth, commonsensical, businesslike, having both one's feet on the ground, hard-headed, no nonsense. If you currently go downtown to any event, as Amy and somebody else had stated, there's alcohol on the streets, whether you like it or not. It's there, and 99% of them are drinking responsibly as adults. Mr. Shepherd, I agree, this ordinance is so convoluted, I don't know who could understand it. What time, what day, currently as it's written, I don't support it. When I hear people talking about family values, like Miss Amy said, it kind of hits me a little bit hard. I have family values too. Everybody in here has family values. Just because their values might not necessarily align with yours 100% does not make them any less of a citizen. There was a survey that was done on Facebook, whatever that's worth. There's still over 200 people replied to it. It was roughly 70% in favor of the district, 30 against. I put something on Facebook and it was about 90% in favor, 10% against. So do those people's values matter? Voting on this district itself establishes that boundary that's been discussed. It allows someone to leave that restaurant or bar with that beverage in a cup, just as many people do now, bringing it in from outside. There'd be special dates, times in which the district would be enacted, as we've discussed. I attend most of those events, and there's a lot of people drinking on the streets, and I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and act like it's not. I believe adults should be treated like adults and allowed to do the entertainment district. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Boone.
Actually, I have no comments other than I hope everybody has a safe and Merry Christmas for this upcoming year.
I don't have any comments other than to say that when we get to item 7, which is the final adoption of the entertainment district ordinance, I'm going to allow the council to make arguments for or against, and I'm going to reserve my comments for that time. I'm going to try to address a lot of the questions that were raised in the public participation segment, maybe not all of them, but a good many of them. For instance, the ambiguities that were mentioned and some others. With that, I'll close council comments and we'll move to item 5, which is a resolution of the appointment of Municipal Judge Hames Snedeker. This is the term of the municipal judge shall serve 2 years, January 1st, 2019 to January 1st, 2021, or until a successor is elected by the council and qualified. If this is passed, we will ask the Honorable Jody Bishop, Circuit Judge of the 28th Judicial Circuit of the State of Alabama, to come forward and swear in Judge Snedeker. So, Council, I will ask for a motion to appoint the municipal judge, Mr. Hames Snedeker.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Judge? You'd have thought you'd have brought some people with some star power in here tonight.
Brought my clothes with me.
Good grief. I want to take a picture from up here.
I thought it was. I didn't know that.
I think it's just here.
I've written things every day.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, Hames Snedeker,
I, Hames Snedeker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
and the Constitution of the State of Alabama,
so long as I continue
so long as I continue
a citizen thereof,
a citizen thereof,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and honestly
and honestly
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of Fairhope Municipal Judge,
of Fairhope Municipal Judge,
upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
If I could just say a few things. First, foremost, Mayor, Council, thank you for the reappointment. It's been one of the greatest privileges and honors of my life to serve as your municipal judge over the last 12 years. And it's been a pleasure to work with Marcus McDowell, Tut Wynn, and Trey Canada. We've gone through several prosecutors over the years, but they've got a great team, and they do a great job representing the city. I also need to acknowledge the 3 magistrates who worked so closely with me for the first, 12 years. We only had 2 magistrates. So with the help of the mayor and council, we've increased the budget, which has allowed me to hire another magistrate to handle the caseload. We've become extremely efficient. We've hired 2 magistrates in the last year, Teresa and Barry. Council President Burrell got to meet Barry McIlvain the other night, and I know you were impressed with her. She's done a great job. She's been solely responsible for instituting the amnesty court, which we've tried the last couple of weeks, which has been a success. Help us clear up a lot of old cases on the docket. There are over 1,500 cases that are just in no man's land. The defendants have failed to appear, people owe money, and we were trying to clear those up before we instituted our new paperless system, which will start in June, and that should revolutionize the way we operate court. So we couldn't do that without your support. So I'm very fortunate to be in this position. You guys have given me the tools to hopefully operate a court that you guys are proud of. I'm proud of it, and I'm also lucky to have my parents and brother in town that just happened to work out this way. So I need to thank them for everything they've helped me accomplish also. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 6 is the final adoption of an ordinance of the City of Fairhope to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the people relating to development along the Greeno Road corridor, the filing of rezoning, site plan approvals, and multiple occupancy project applications within the corporate limits of the City of Fairhope. And this was introduced at the last council meeting. Council, do you want a quick summary by Mr. Dias again? The Christmas summary, Wayne.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Council President. As you know, this is the second reading of the proposed moratorium for Greeno Road. Just to summarize real quickly, we conducted a visual preference survey a couple months ago. The visual preference survey is a method to gain input on what kind of development people like to see. We hear a lot of comments about what people don't want when we have proposed developments, but the Visual Preference Survey, VPS, is a method to get input from the citizens about development types that you like. As you recall, there's a series of photographs and you use images, so you kind of have a common language for people to look at through images, and they're able to vote. We had 2 public meetings where people could come and see it in person. Then also we had an online survey that was provided to everyone so they could comment. My understanding, we had a pretty significant participation in that event, online and in public, and the public hearings, and so that's a very positive thing. This moratorium is intended to allow us the ability to review those and propose recommended changes to the council during this moratorium. As you know, it's very difficult to try to implement changes as things are happening as you're trying to change them, and so this moratorium would be a limited moratorium for Greeno Road on rezoning applications, site plan approvals, and multiple occupancy projects. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. As soon as we get finished, you know, there's an end date for the moratorium, 270 days. I don't think it'll take that long. We'll work as quickly and as efficiently as we can to propose something to you. Obviously, it had to go to the Planning Commission and come to the City Council for adoption, but we'll work as quickly as we can implement those changes. So this will have minimum impact on current development that may be going on, but this will be a temporary moratorium.
Questions, council? If not, I will entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Final discussion? Okay, hearing none, clerk, if you'll call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4?
Aye.
Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to your recommendation.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Item 7 on tonight's agenda is the final adoption and ordinance establishing an entertainment district for the City of Fairhope. This was introduced at the last regular City Council meeting. I'll open the floor up for debate, council, and we'll just go down the line. Councilman Robinson, if you have any comments.
You know, I don't know if what I'm going to say is debating. Let me say this. You know, it's remarkable to get to hear what everybody has to say, and I respect both sides of this. You know, I mean, I think what you said was awesome. I mean, I think the way you put it and the way you said it, really makes me think. And I really, truly sympathize with what you guys are dealing with. As somebody that loves to eat at Dragonfly, I especially sympathize with you. And I think there's a problem that needs to be corrected. I truly do. But the problem that I see here, outside of what I think is a very poor ordinance in the way that it sets things out, I think there's a lot of problems with that to begin with. I don't think your problem is corrected by this ordinance as written or changed, because it's only changing things up for 12 days out of the year. It doesn't satisfy or remedy your problem the other 345 days of the year. Why it is that restaurants are burdened with policing the acts of the individual is unclear to me, and it's unfair. But I don't think this is the answer. And I said this last time, and I said it a year ago when we voted on it. I look at this from a standpoint of the community as a whole, and I don't see the detriment that you guys talk about. I see problems and potential problems with the uncertainties and the ambiguities of it, but I see it from a realistic standpoint is, there's a lot of these things that are already going on, but that doesn't mean we need to change it to make it easier to do it. And so ultimately, I look at this as, do I see a clear benefit to this community? And the easy answer for me is I don't. I think there are ways that we can go about fixing these problems, but I just don't think this is it. And I said it and I'll say it again. Anytime you make any change to the way things operate, the way things are done, you run the risk of making a mistake. And if there's no clear benefit to this community, my personal opinion is there's no reason to make the change. And that's kind of where I stand on it.
Councilman Conyers?
Yes, so the first time this came up, the vote for the entertainment district, as Robert mentioned earlier, it was 2-2 tie. I was one of the votes in favor of establishing the entertainment district. I've certainly talked to a lot of people, especially in the last 2 weeks, both for and against the entertainment district. I've talked to the police department, several individuals there. Kind of on the same page as what Jay said, I don't see the widespread calamity that a lot of people have brought forth will be as a result of this. But at the same time, when I weigh the pros and the cons, the upside is minimal, and the downside there certainly is potential for more downside. I think the main thing I've gotten out of this the last couple of weeks is that there's so much confusion. The individuals that are, for the most part, that are in favor of the ordinance that I've talked to, they don't quite understand it. Now, Amy, I think you probably fully understand it, but my friends, for example, that are in favor of the ordinance, they generally seem to think it's a blanket 365-day-a-year open container. You can show up at your shop and walk out the street, and I think that that misperception of what's being proposed could potentially just be a nightmare for the police department to try to enforce. As Chief Hollinghead brought up, the education component's just not there. I think there's just so much confusion about what exactly this is, and again, just talking to all the individuals I've talked to, I think it's unfair position, Amy, that you're in, and I think that that ought to be remedied, where it's the responsibility of the individual walking out of a restaurant or a bar. They're the ones who ought to be getting a fine for leaving the premises with an open container. But at the end of the day, I just, weighing them out, I just really think that, as I think Ms. Brenny brought something up last council meeting that really started, kind of stuck with me, And I know she attributed the quote to someone else, but the essence of the quote was, you know, a while ago, people used to conform their behavior to comply with the law, and now the approach is that we want to modify the law to conform with everyone's behavior. And I started to think about that, and I thought, you know, that's a very accurate point, and is that really how we should be approaching things? And I don't know, I kind of have had a change of heart and just see it a little bit differently now. So that's all I have to say, Jack.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Conyers. Councilman Brown?
No more comment.
Councilman Boone?
Well, I've been on record as not being for this ordinance since the beginning, and the mere fact that people like to go out on the streets and drink does not mean that the city of Fairhope needs to condone this type of behavior. Along with the fact that I just have never been able to see any benefit to the city of Fairhope, so I will be voting no.
Okay. I'm going to address a lot of the questions that were brought up, not the least of which was that there needed to be some clarity given to the ordinance, and I believe at the time of, if this ordinance, if there's a motion and a second, there would be some edits made. For instance, the times, whether that be 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., it'd be very clear as to what times it would be enacted. It would be specified at the time of passage tonight, if it passes. It would be specified prior to that as to what special events it would entail. That would be clarified tonight prior to the vote, even if it meant an amendment to the ordinance. I heard it mentioned the areas that it encompasses and some concerns over that. We kept it simple in the language of the ordinance to keep the enforcement simple to just be the central business district. One thing that people need to be very clear on is that the ordinance only pertains, the only people it affects, period, are people that are licensed sellers of alcoholic beverages. So to worry about whether it's the school or the church or a playground is of no consequence, because they're not selling alcohol. They're not licensed sellers of alcohol. This ordinance, pass or fail, has zero bearing on those properties whatsoever. Another common fallacy for the people that are in favor of the ordinance is, has been mentioned several times, is that it's going to make it such that you can bring in your alcohol from home and walk around town even during the special events. Doesn't do that. The ordinance only, once again, addresses the people that are dispensing alcohol in a licensed establishment. We have an open container law on the books now that governs whether or not you can walk down the street with an open container. And right now the law says that you can't. Now, I would agree with Councilman Brown that 99% of the people that are drinking during special events, and they're not hard to spot, just look for the opaque cup and, you know, there's a good chance that there's some alcoholic beverage in there, but they're not creating problems. So the ordinance, I don't think is going to add to alcohol in the streets if it passed so much. I don't think it's going to take away so much. I think that some things are going to just be left undone. So I think that there are some fallacies on both sides of that. I don't think that if this ordinance passed, it's going to be the end of Western civilization. And I do think that this council has the willpower to abolish it should it be a problem. I don't think, however, as is the case in many towns, that this town is in need of revitalization. A lot of towns that pass entertainment districts do so because they need a gimmick. They need a way to get people into town. They need tax revenue, or they need to attract people to downtown. Fortunately, thank God, Fairhope does not have that problem right now. I agree with, and it was also said by a couple of council members, and I too voted in favor, Councilman Conyers, the last time this was brought up. Man, I'm thankful that I have another bite at the apple. And I'll tell you that a lot of people, comments resonated with me, not the least of which was Mr. Shepard's at the last meeting. And I paraphrased, and I couldn't say it nearly as eloquently as you. Basically, if it's not broke, don't fix it. we don't have an issue with entertainment in Fairhope. I go downtown and have a good time and have fun at the parades, and I don't know what passing this ordinance is going to do to make that better. I don't see a clear benefit. I do think it's low risk if it were to pass, but when you are voting on something, which I would call this fairly monumental, as evidenced by the outpouring of people, this is a big decision, and when you have to think about it so much, is it really the right thing to do, then maybe it's not the right thing to do. If you ever been trained that if you have to think about sending this send button on an email 2 or 3 times after you write it, and you say, do I really want to send this? They'll tell you you probably shouldn't send it. And so when I toil over voting for this, voting in favor, maybe I shouldn't vote in favor if it's not that clear to me. So I don't see a clear benefit, although I think some of the fallacies in the ordinance could be very easily rectified. I'm not in support of it anymore. And I do appreciate all the emails and phone calls, both for and against, that I received. I apologize to those that I did not get to return your phone calls or emails. I answered the phone when I was available, and sometimes I may have been on teleconference and I didn't get your phone, but I promise you I listened to your voice message, or I read your emails. I read every one of them, and I couldn't call everybody back. So for those that voiced your concerns for and against, and I haven't returned your phone calls, I apologize for that. But any other comments, council?
Yeah, I got one more comment.
Yes, sir.
I don't need the entertainment district. I'm doing this in support of the downtown businesses that have asked for help from the city council.
Yes, sir. And that's a good point. That is a good point. And I do feel for you, and I wish that there's something we could do about the state law that makes you responsible for somebody leaving the business. It should be on them, because nobody's going to get patted down when they leave a bar in Fairhope. I was talking to someone from the Cactus Cantina. They serve alcohol. Nobody's going to pat them down when they walk out of there. They could walk into a bathroom and slip a drink in their coat pocket. And so it may happen, and I truly regret that for whatever business gets fined. But maybe we need to take a trip to Montgomery, and have a discussion about that as to who should be responsible for that. I appreciate everyone's comments. And with that, I'll close the discussion, and I will ask for a motion for final adoption.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second. Thank you, council. There's a lot of you here tonight for that. Do we need to take a break so you people can leave? If you'd like to stand up and go home and wrap presents tonight, we'll take about a 2-minute break. 8, which is a final adoption of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1504 and authorizing and granting Bell South Telecommunications Incorporated, doing business as AT&T Alabama, the right to use the rights of way of the city to provide video services to the citizens of the city under the terms of the original agreement adopted on November 25th, 2013. The addendum to the agreement, which amends paragraph 2 of the agreement by changing date of termination from December 31st, 2018 to December 31st, 2023, and paragraph 13, the notices paragraph of the agreement by changing the address for AT&T Alabama, introduced at the December 10th, 2018 City Council meeting. I'll entertain a motion for final adoption.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, if you'll call the question.
Council President?
Aye.
Place 2?
Aye.
Place 3?
Aye.
Place 4? Aye. Place 5?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 9 is a resolution, the appointment of Chief of Police, Ms. Stephanie Hollinghead. I'll read the resolution. It says, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Fairhope, Alabama, that Stephanie Hollinghead is hereby appointed as Chief of Police. The term of the Chief of Police shall serve until the next general municipal election and until a successor is elected by the council and qualified. The starting salary will be $87,250. I'll entertain a motion for this appointment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Happy to have you.
Yeah, and congratulations.
We haven't voted yet.
Preemptive.
I got a head start.
Can we,
You have the opportunity.
We're going to have some pomp and circumstance after we take this vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Congratulations.
Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all. I just wanted to say thank y'all to, this has been an amazing 4 months for me. There have been a few challenges, and I thank you so much for putting your faith, your trust in me to run the police department and to let me continue to be the leader of our department starting 2019. Actually, I'm going to say 2019, but I'm here. So, but thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Congratulations.
Item number 10 tonight is a resolution that the compensation and job classification plan along with the grade order sheet be amended and approved to reclassify Gardner Apprentice Grade 12 to Gardner 1 Grade 16, to delete the Litter Patrol Equipment Operator Apprentice Grade 11 job position and amend the budget for positions as stated. The City Council approves an across-the-board pay adjustment of $1 per hour for the 4 Public Works custodians, which were Grade 11. I'll entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll just note this was discussed at the last work session. Okay, hearing no further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 11 is a resolution that the governing body of the City of Fairhope, Alabama hereby rescinds resolution number 3114-18, rejects bid number 23-18 for overhead doors, and repeals resolution number 3250-18 for amendment 1 and authorizes a rebid. Lance spoke to us at the earlier work session about this, so I will entertain a motion for passage.
So moved.
Second.
Any final discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 12 is a resolution authorizing Mayor Karen Wilson to expend impact fees for the purchase of 40 acres at $48,000 per acre with zero interest for parklands from the impact fee account for services for the Parks and Recreation Benefit Area. Before I entertain a motion for this, I have a question for the city attorney, and that relates to the appraised value. Can we make an offer without an appraisal? Do we know, and maybe this has been appraised, do we know if this fits within the appraised value?
It has not been appraised, in my understanding, but past is subject to appraisal.
What happens if the appraisal doesn't meet the price?
Then you have to come back and renegotiate it.
Okay, so do we need to make some kind of amendment to the resolution just to put a statement in there to that fact?
It should be something in there that indicates that it's subject to appropriate, an appropriate appraisal. Correct.
Okay, can we just say that at the end? Clerk, subject to purchase price being, subject to an appraisal. Can you just say subject to an appraisal? Is it understood that you have to be within that appraisal?
It needs to be a third party.
I'd say you go through an appraisal management company and they'll assign somebody blindly that neither of us will even be involved in the selection.
Do we need to pass a resolution tonight to hire that appraisal, or ask the mayor to select an appraisal manager?
I would recommend Equity Evaluation Partners. They're the only one in Fairhope that I'm aware of, and they probably have most of the appraisers in town probably in their wheelhouse.
Okay, I think we should, I want to ask for a motion to amend the resolution to include the phrase, subject to an appraisal.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of amending the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Now, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended resolution for the purchase of 40 acres at $48,000 per acre with zero interest.
So
as stated.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we have I know you're negotiating contract, is there already a set date? I mean, is that appraisal could take several weeks?
Right.
Is that an issue?
All I've done with this other, the seller and with Tom's help is, we've been talking about this in multiple executive sessions, and the amount that he is asking for is in line with sales in that area. And plus, this is a bigger piece of property, so it's very scarce that you're going to find 40 acres this close to town. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that we've talked about, and there's also a lot of purchases that we've made over the years, based on what we want for the future, and no appraisals were done.
Yeah, well.
So, I mean, I understand that we want to make sure
comply
that.
with state law. That's all I'm trying to do.
I mean,
We voted for.
Oh, no, I mean, the airport authority land, and I don't think the soccer fields, those were appraised, so.
Oh, that was purchased in 20.
No, I'm just saying that when you see something that, is an opportunity, and that you've looked at other property that's sold, it's not out of question, but I'm for doing things, properly. I just want to mention that this was really vetted in multiple meetings about this being a prime spot for the future ballparks, and it is going to be 3 payments, 0% interest, all being paid out of impact fees, which is the purpose of impact fees.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be an issue with it not appraising, but if it didn't appraise, I mean, I would still be in favor of acquiring the property. So what would we do then?
I don't know that you can. That's what I'm saying. There's state
Right.
law. That's what we're trying to cover. If not, we wouldn't even go through we wouldn't even amend the resolution. I think that it's necessary, though.
Well, I mean,
That's my understanding of
I'm
it. I
definitely,
agree, I think it's going to appraise.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an issue.
You
but-
don't have enough tract that size like the mayor.
no, in the downtown area, and even though it's.
All year on it.
Yeah, I mean, and even though it might not be something we develop immediately, I mean, we can't wait until we need it, because then it's not going to be there. I mean, this is one of those things that we're preparing for the future by acting today, and I think it's absolutely something that needs to be done.
Jimmy, what's the name of that outfit?
It's Equity Evaluation Partners.
Okay, I want to ask for an amendment to tonight's agenda to add a resolution authorizing the mayor to negotiate a fee schedule with Equity, what's that?
Evaluation.
Equity Evaluation.
Is Equity Evaluations for an appraisal of the said land, and to negotiate the fee schedule and execute the contract. Can we, I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, let's go ahead, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution of the mayor to select, or not to select, but we'll select Equity Evaluation. The mayor will negotiate the fee schedule and execute contract for an appraisal of the said land. Entertain a motion for that
So
resolution.
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'm just assuming that the appraisal is pretty standard price. We're not talking about a lot of money, so we're going ahead and do those 2 steps in one.
Yeah, a couple $1,000.
Select and execute it at one time. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, if we can get that underway. Thank you, council. Item number 13 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute a contract for extension number 2 of bid number 26-16, cleaning and inspection of sanitary sewer mains with Smith Industrial Service for an additional 1 year as per the terms and conditions of the original contract. The annual bid for unit prices is listed on the attached schedule with a not-to-exceed amount of $81,550. Entertain a motion for this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
I got a quick question, just if you don't mind, going back to revisit the that item number 12. So the way the resolution was passed, the mayor's authorized to negotiate a contract subject to appraisal, or are we requiring the appraisal to come in first?
She's only authorized to execute the fee, to negotiate the fee schedule, sign the contract with the with the equity evaluation.
Okay.
The contract, or the purchase was just approved by the council, subject to the appraisal.
All right. Okay.
We good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Item 14 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure a 918M wheel loader with fusion coupler through a 3-year lease to own for the sanitation department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance contract. Therefore, it does not have to be let out for bid. The 3-year lease to own for a total buy in the amount of $183,340.98. Entertain a motion for this lease.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, so as stated, for items 14 through 19, this is in the capital purchases budget. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, lease to own is approved. Thank you. Item 15 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure a model 316 FL excavator through a 3-year lease to own for the street department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance contract, and therefore does not have to be let out for bid. The 3-year lease to own for a total buy in the amount of $220,696.17. I'll entertain a motion to approve this lease to own.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Item 16 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope vote to procure a Caterpillar 304 E2 mini excavator for the gas department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Co-op, therefore it does not have to be let out for bid. It's already been nationally bid through Sourcewell's bid process. The cost will be $49,530. I'll entertain a motion for this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 17 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure a John Deere 4x4 side-by-side maintenance vehicle for the gas department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Co-op, therefore it does not have to be let out for bid. This has been nationally bid through the Sourcewell bid process. The cost will be $12,366.75. I will entertain a motion for this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 18 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure a 2019 Altech AT41M bucket truck for the electric department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the Sourcewell Purchasing Co-op, therefore does not have to be let out for bid. This has been nationally bid through Sourcewell's bid process. The cost will be $139,705. I'll entertain a motion for this purchase.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Once again, these are budgeted items. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the purchase, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 19 is a resolution, the City of Fairhope vote to procure one 2019 Freightliner M2-108 chassis with flatbed dump body for the street department. The equipment is available for direct procurement through the National Joint Powers Alliance contract number 4803. Therefore, it does not have to be let out for bid. It's already been bid nationally through NJPA's bid process. The cost will be $89,972. I'll entertain a motion for the purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just say if you're bidding on a
$3.
$90,000 deal and you're within $28, you've done pretty good.
Okay.
This is right on the money.
Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of the purchase, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. I know it may not feel like Christmas to those departments, but I hope it feels a little bit like Christmas. A lot of spending going on. Looks like the Burrell house. All right, item 20 is a resolution to award an RFP for work on the Pier Avenue boat ramp bulkhead and pier repair. RFP number 001-19 for the Street Department to Asphalt Services Incorporated with a total cost of $17,548, and I will remind council that 80% of that is reimbursable. Entertain a motion to award the RFP.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries. Item number 21 is a resolution the City Council approves the selection of Jackson Thornton CPAs and consultants for professional consulting services to prepare a comprehensive utility cost of service study for the electric, gas, water, and wastewater utilities, approves and accepts the not-to-exceed amount of $71,900, and hereby authorizes Mayor Karen Wilson to execute a contract with Jackson Thornton CPAs and consultants for the same. Mr. Peterson, I called on you in a work session, and I think you'd taken a quick break. If we can get you to give us an overview of this, please.
Yes, sir. And what we're trying to do is integrate the Munis work order system into accounts for each utility where the rate design that in order to create a fair rate and potentially add commercial rates, and I don't know about an industrial rate at this point, but certainly we should have large and small commercial rates. And so when you look at how we expense operation and maintenance of these systems, that they will help apply toward what the rate structure would be, and so we'll be able to start tracking expenses that apply to a fixed cost, which would be more of a rate per customer, and then you have a usage charge that would be geared toward, large customers wouldn't have to pay necessarily as much today as they do now, because when you have expenses that are all about operating and maintaining the system, it should be shared equally by all customers and not necessarily rolled into a rate of usage that we can't account for. I know I'm not making any sense to y'all, and I apologize for that.
It is a little confusing, and that's why I wanted you to explain it. So it's not just putting things into Munis. Is the end product, they're going to suggest rate structure or
Yes.
rates themselves or both?
Right, they will establish a rate structure protocol, and it'll be based on percentages of certain expenses going toward a fixed cost, and then there'll be other expenses that'll go toward variable costs based on usage. And we'll look at each of the different customer classes, and we'll determine if our existing rate structure is fair and appropriate, and we maintain the rates that we have, or if we should work toward creating a more balanced rate that's fair to all the customers.
I get, well, then you brought up my next question, Mr. Peterson, is what prompted us wanting to spend the $72,000? Do we think that do we have reason to believe that our rate structure is not a fair rate structure or an accurate, or, I mean, because we've had a lot of discussions about, what we're charging for services, and we've had proposals, and the council was kind of set on what we believe rates should be. So if an end result of this is going to be to change those rates, I can see the whole fairness thing, but I don't know, I feel like we're back to council, and somebody chime in. I mean, am I the only one that thinks that we're back to where we've been before?
I'm kind of wondering, what are we getting for the $72,000 if we've already set the rates?
Can you verify, where is this being paid? I mean, it doesn't, AMEA,
AMEA will reimburse us to $20,000 or $22,000 that will be applied toward the electric study, and that will be reimbursed. But when you start looking at changing the connection fee schedule, and when you start looking at charging rates where you have in-town and out-of-town rates, there may be an opportunity for somebody to challenge whether that rate's fair to them if they feel like they're being overburdened with expenses that shouldn't apply to their specific rate.
this isn't about increasing either, it's about some built-in fees.
And we need to have a defensible report or some third-party assessment that we can defend what rates we're charging.
Yeah.
And if we're going to continue to track those things and when we start putting this information into the different expense and capital account ledgers that we need to start, keeping track of better. And when we have the software to do that with through the Munis system. I mean, this will be a one-time event that we will use as the benchmark for how we move forward with rate design and rate structure going forward. I just think it's.
What are we basing it on now? What's the rate structure based on now? Did we not have a consultant come in and tell us what we should base our rates on prior, and we have that to fall back on should somebody challenge us? Certainly somewhere it had some basis. Do we know what that is?
No, sir.
Well, and so, Richard, when I first looked at this, my thought was, we're going to pay somebody $72,000 or $50,000 after AMEA reimbursement to come in and tell us we want to raise our utility rates when we already know we don't want to do that. But what I'm hearing from you is something a little different. That might be some small portion of it, but it sounds almost kind of what we did with our impact fees, where we had somebody come in and kind of do a study on how those are set up, what each fee is outside of just a utility rate but connection fees and all those things.
That's
so that if there is ultimately any issue down the road, we have something to say, what we're doing is fair and here's how we know it is.
Absolutely.
That's different than just somebody coming in saying you need to raise your fees.
Well, we've paid consultants to tell us when we need to change the rate of our, gas. We had that consultant in Florida up until a year or two ago that did that, and they had formulas that they used, and we have formulas that we use to set rates, and I just always assumed that there was some basis for that. And although we may get reimbursed $20,000 by AMEA, is it really? I guess is it really necessary to spend $52,000 to go back if we don't? Do we really not have anything to fall back on?
I think it's necessary. And I think it's necessary because I think we want to have valid information that supports what we're doing. And I don't know that we have that today. And I will tell you, and just take the labor cost adjustment, for example. We're going to take all the labor and we're going to apply it across the board for every usage, every base charge rate we have. And I can tell you, if you keep doing that time and time again, eventually the larger users are going to be paying a disproportionate amount for their service than the smaller users. And that's just a reality.
You used an example when you explained it to me that really made a lot of sense, but it's not just about the rate. It's the other minimum expense. Explain that.
We're going to start tracking what it costs to install a water service, and when we have an installation fee that comes with somebody buying a water service that's not there, we'll have, in our capital expense ledger, we'll have 3/4-inch water services, and it'll give us an average cost of what it takes to put one in. And when somebody says, why are you charging me $400 to install a water service? Well, that's why. Because that's what it cost us. And I think it's the right way to run the utility.
Mr. President, I hate to get involved in a issue.
Didn't know you were going to do double duty tonight, did you?
Would you rather me not? I'll sit down.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Well, I need all the help I can get.
I'm going to ask him.
I think ABA's about to pay for all of it.
Mr. President, cost of service studies like this are not uncommon. They're done regularly. You have, prior to the current administration, and Richard have done this previously. And we have paid $25,000 or some other figures to help support that in the past. And so the commonality of identifying, when this was first identified sometime back in the 90s, it was at a time when electric utilities, gas and water and other utilities that cities had were being decoupled, and you were trying to identify, well, what is our real cost of service for an electric customer, for example. The establishment and consideration of what should customer fees be. It is not intended to change your rate schedules. It is not intended to necessarily change or establish new classes of customers. It is to identify what your costs are behind those numbers, so to make sure that you feel comfortable about them. And so we have done this on a regular basis with our members in general on the electric side, and have established a $25,000 payback to the members as a cost payback for doing that. And the reason to do it with gas, water, and electric, many times, water and wastewater don't pay for themselves. And so it's just trying to, you in effect, subsidize that with your electric revenues. And so it's for the council to better understand that. And so this is something you do periodically, maybe one time every 5 years, because your costs shift somewhat. And in a changing world of electricity, you're going to want to just have this as a foundation, not to make changes, not to do anything, because most people don't want to make the changes that might be recommended, but it gives you a cost foundation to at least know, well, now, what is our actual cost as it goes back to revenues? Now, if you don't want to do it today, that's certainly appropriate, but clearly you will want to do it periodically if you don't set up to just do this every 5 years or so. And again, from the electric utility, since that is our business, that's the reason we support the evaluation of the cost studies for our members, so that they know exactly what that cost of service to any individual might be. And so, all right, let me get out of the way.
So the way I'm hearing, might clear it up a little bit for me, the intent is for you to understand what it actually costs you to provide this service, so that
That's
you
right.
know whether or not you're appropriately billing for it. You don't want to give something that costs you twice as much
You're
to
better
actually do
understanding
for half
exactly.
price.
It is not going to challenge your rates. It is not going,
But you may want to reassess how you're doing
yes,
things.
and that's the
when you get that
function.
study.
However,
Got it.
Mr. President, that's my 2 cents, and I'm going to get out of this business. So thank you.
When was the last time we did an assessment? Do we know?
Well, we didn't review utilities.
No, I meant with the city of Fairhope.
I have.
Do you recall,
done it
Mr.
here
Clark, when the last time you pitched in for this?
I know it was probably done, I forget the guy's name. You mentioned Florida. It's a consulting firm that you've used previously.
Pender.
Bob
was just
Bob Pender.
That's right.
And that was done during the Kent last administration, probably 3, 4, 5 years ago is when that was done in general. And so, and the Jackson Thornton group that's doing this, they've done this for a lot of our members as well. And so they certainly, is an accounting firm that does the audits for many electric utilities in general. So what they're doing is coming in and identifying your dollars. And so, anyway, whether you do, as I said, timing is not a big thing, but when you get to it, it's a normal thing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peterson, thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, council, any further questions? There any? I was a little adverse to this coming in because I didn't quite understand it, but I think,
Was it budgeted?
Yes, it was budgeted.
Okay.
I was adverse to this coming in, but I think I understand it more now. I'm more comfortable with it, so thank you for that explanation.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry,
Nah,
I muddled my way through it.
That's why we
but-
discuss it. That's exactly why we do what we're doing. right?
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, council, I will entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, resolution passes. Thank you, council. Item 22 is a resolution authorizing Mayor Karen Wilson to execute the second amendment to the amended and restated power sales contract. And this is a pretty big deal, so Mr. Clark, I'm going to have you, I know that you've spoken to council members and the mayor, but for the
Yes.
sake of the public that may be interested in this, if you would give a quick overview of this.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to be here with you. I have had a chance to visit with each council member, which has been great. AMEA, as you know, is your partner in electric service. We provide wholesale power to our member 11 cities, and have had, Fairhope is one of our founding members and partners associated with power supply. We've been in the process of strategic planning associated with future power supply, and looking at 2026 through 2035 and our power supply needs. And one of the opportunities that we've identified for helping to both bring diversity as well as stability in energy has been looking at purchase power arrangements in large-scale solar projects. And so in order to do that type of a purchase power arrangement, we found that we needed an extension in our current contracts to do that. And thus, our current contracts go through 2035, which we have a Sylacauga combustion turbine peaking plant there that serves under that. This amendment extends the contract from 2035 to 2045 with a rolling provision unless otherwise noticed by a member. And so that enables us to contract for this utility scale solar, which we believe will save us some $60 million over the first 13 years of the contract, of a 20-year contract with them. I would know what the final 7 years, but we don't have an idea of what gas costs will be out that far. But we would assume that it would be even better. But that's what we know in the forecast for natural gas through 2035. To give you an update, the last several months, I've been going and telling our leaders throughout the state of our members about this opportunity, as well as what our strategic plan is. As you know, we've had stable rates, no rate changes since 2012. Do not expect any rate changes through 25, and look for having a substantial rate reduction come 26. I'm happy to report to you that you're the last member to have to approve this. Our other 10 members have approved this contract extension, the last of which was on Tuesday night. And so with your consideration, Mr. President, and I hope it's positive, I'm going to have a Merry Christmas because this is going to be our last.
No pressure.
But in any event, I did want to share with you that that has gone well with other members, and it's been very positive. So thank you, and let me stop and answer any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Clark? We thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Council, I want to make one note on the resolution. As you see it there, just a cut and paste error, I believe, on the paragraph 4. It says the mayor or vice chairman of the council. That should be the mayor or council president. In 2 places in that paragraph, we don't have a vice chairman of the council. It's just a typo there. If you'll make that change. And I will entertain a motion to authorize Mayor Wilson to execute the Second Amendment to the amended and restated power sales contract with the AMEA.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I tell everybody I'm the vice chairman of the council. Does that count for anything?
Well, you're the council pro tem. I don't think that's what it means. That's a different structure there, but you can say that.
Sounds
That
much
makes
more,
you feel better.
Sounds more important.
That's right. You're council president pro tem. All right. We have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 23 is a resolution that Mayor Karen Wilson is hereby authorized to execute an engagement letter with Tobias. I'm sorry, Mr. McCormick. I always knew him as Mr. McCormick.
Well, that's it. There's a Mr. Tobias and a Mr. McCormick and a Mr. Comer.
Oh.
Tobias.
Boy, I'm butchering this one. I'm doing good. Where's that entertainment district when you need it? And Comer Lawyers for professional legal services for representation of the city of Fairhope, Alabama on the third-party complaint against Charter Oak Fire Insurance Company in the matter of Charles K. Breland Jr. versus the city of Fairhope, Alabama. Entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to execute the engagement letter. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Clerk, will you put a comma in there next time? We'll do that. All right, public participation. The floor is open. If you have anything else to bring forth before the council, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, I will now close public participation and entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, we're adjourned. Merry Christmas.